better set up for actually working in the yard. The other one is in a discontinued yard. When you're setting up your workstation to work on your beehive, you want to be able to move the bees off of the boxes. In this case, we actually, because this is the first time we're going to go through this colony in the season, we want to get to the bottom board so we can clean it. So the first thing you want to do is you set up two boxes, because there's two boxes in the stack. You put one box here, you pick your lid and you sit it there. The other one, you've got an inner cover or a lid that you've placed over here. The reason why you have this is we don't know which box the queen is, and you always want to have your queen to drop onto the board if she's going to fall off and not on the ground. So I'm going to crack the colony. You do this gently and carefully. If you do it as gently as possible, it doesn't disturb the bees, so you don't have to be smoking. And you'll notice that the frames are sticking, so you take your hive tool and you just lever them down gently. The less banging the better, because then the bees don't get pissed off at you, allowing you to actually do this process. Now in this particular case, this is a full-size box and this is a decent size box. In the breeding operation, I like to use this because this box ends up with brood in it, and I never leave the brood, never am without brood for my next colony. Even though I will split this up into nukes for sale. Now, I can then break this off the bottom board and stick it over on the other. So I'm going to take the bottom board and scrape it onto something that you can take away. So you're going to take your hive tool and you're going to scrape the hive box. I like to use this end to get it started. Once I'm started, it's just drag. And you want to take it off of these edges too. So that when I put this box back together, it's going to have a nice tight seal along the outside edge. By cleaning it, I'm also removing all of the waste material that the bees have been dropping out and has been sitting on the bottom of the hive for the winter. It could be contaminated with disease, but that's part of the reason why I'm getting rid of it. Now, when I put this back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this edge as well. I can do this without smoking because there's basically no bees in this box. It's empty, they're just traveling through it to get to the brood that's in the other box. Now this dark colored wax is filled with propolis. So if you're in an area that's not contaminated with neonics, you can utilize that. Otherwise, you just toss it in the solar dryer and collect it for future sales. In this case, you can't use that directly in candle making because candles, you can't use propolis in a candle, but it's good for medicinal. Generally speaking though, I won't use the overwintered wax like this because the chance of contamination is too high. Alright, now I have a choice with this now that I know that there's nothing in there. I can either put this back on to work it so it's a little higher or work it right here. So I'll just work it right here because it's probably got better light on it. So I open up the box and I'm going to look at the number of bees. Now in this case I've got bees on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames. So I'll record that. Now I want to find out what's actually going on in the colony. So I'll crack open by levering forward a little bit and reversing my hive tool and lever back and lever back, and I'll reach under. I like to use the second frame in as a general rule because there's no burr comb to scratch and damage your comb as you're drawing it out. When you're lifting a comb out, especially on the first run, be very slow and careful for two reasons. One is it prevents keeps the bees in a more gentle manner, plus you reduce the risk of rolling the queen, of killing the queen. Okay, now when you look at this frame, you'll see that it's a nice frame of honey and pollen mix with good brood laying area in the middle.
Why do you say that?
Well, I can, because it's open and open. The area in here is open, ready to be laid in. They're cleaning it out. There's fresh pollen placed all around in this zone here, and there's honey around the outside edge. Right? The other side is a little less resourceful. But that's fine for a second frame in a top box, in a box like this. So I'm going to set that one down to the side because I know the queen's not on it. I didn't see her. Although I should never make the assumption that she's not there. Okay, now I open this one up again. And again, I'm doing this nice and slow, pulling up through the middle space. The slower and more gentle you are in the colony, the less agitated you're going to make the bees, and they're easier to work with. Now, again, because you notice I'm neither veiled nor smoking. Now, this one's great because we know that we got eggs on this side. I've looked down in this area here, there's eggs. And there's actually eggs on the other side too. So this frame is actually a full frame of eggs. And it was nicely located, third frame in from the edge. So now I'm going to continue through the colony. So I got one frame of brood. And if you notice when I did that, I don't know if you could hear it from that distance, but it stirred the bees up. Oh, there's our queen. Our queen's on there, and a beautiful slab of honey, or brood. Beautiful, classic. Nice pattern, laid in the rotation that they're going to be doing. Nice frame of brood. Other than she's a little small, it was an excellent, it's also a possible breeder candidate. Mostly because of the fact that it's such a nice brood pattern. And for the first time opening this hive, it's also very gentle. They're not agitated, they're not running around, that's a good sign. Now this one is another nice frame of brood with pollen mixed in there. This hive's a little light on pollen, but we don't have much control over that. So that's 2 frames of brood we got. Actually 3 frames of brood. The next frame is another frame of brood, a little shy on bees, but not a bad frame of brood. And it's brood on both sides. So that's 4 frames of brood this hive has.
Can you lift it?
And there's more brood on this one. There's fresh eggs laid in there. She's got a nice laying pattern. Really good cause. But mostly it's not enough to count as a brood, but it's definitely showing signs that she's laying there. So this queen is expanding her nest quite nicely. And when that next round of brood hatches out and goes, this hot colony is going to really have a lot of bees in it next time we look. And then there's a half a slab of honey. Not a bad one at that. Now this green comb is actually a drone comb. And it's got some honey on it. Not a lot, so I'm not even going to count it at this point in time. I'll just leave it at that. So we got 4 frames of brood and maybe all told a frame of honey. So this guy's actually a little light on honey. If I had honey available, I'd probably slide a frame in. But I'm not too worried about it because this feeder here is full of feed. It's got sugar syrup in it, and then over there I have a pail for yard feeding. So all the bees in the zone are feeding out of that pail. And that's done to simulate the fact that simulate nectar flow in the zone. So it helps them to keep a steady flow of brood happening. Now, and then that's because this is light on syrup or light on feed, I actually filled this up the last time I was in the yard.
Now, so you mentioned there are 4 solid frames of brood, the first 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other frames as well that have a lot of brood. Is there a reason that why this hive would be heavy on the brood?
Because it came through winter with more bees than the swarm. The swarm had no help whatsoever, for one. I did no manipulations hardly at all last year. I just left it as an experiment, actually, in seeing what the swarm would do. And I actually was surprised to see her make it through the winter, but she has, and she's looking good. So she'll probably end up being a possible breeder. And but this one basically was it was a 4-frame nuke that I bought last season from a colleague of mine, and because of our drought that we had last year in the Grinrod area, and the fact that there's no alfalfa available for them in the Grinrod area at all, they were rent into winter with nowhere near as many bees as I'd like to have seen. But they had enough to come through that this is going to be a really nice colony for the future. We'll probably get at least 1, maybe 2 nukes out of this, and a honey producing colony, which is what we're looking for. Not necessarily honey producing in the Okanagan area. We're not in a honey area, but it's nice to have the honey. Okay, I'm going to use the same strategy as last time. I'm going to leave the lid in the winter position so the queen can travel a little bit more. But now that she's expanding out, she's going to very quickly be moving into this bottom box. And as a result of going into the bottom box, she's going to expand down there very quickly. And then in the future, I'll probably be putting one of my crosswave boxes on so that she'll start populating the crosswave box with bees and brood, which I need in the breeding program. And that's those boxes over there. That stock on the next pallet over. Those boxes are part of my breeding program, and are also part of the Urban Hive adventure. So now I can close the hive back up, and she's good to go for leaving her a bit. And this was good. Worked the whole hive, nice and slow, first time in the season, and no stings. The other one did sting me a couple times.